What up? Sunny here from Endless Vitality, and I'm here in Kiev, in Ukraine, and the topic I wanted to actually talk about today is this idea that most of us are bought into, and I would say that I definitely kind of bought into it too in my earlier years, probably in my late teens, early 20s, um, probably up until like I was 23, yeah, probably around that time. I was kind of bought into this idea too. And the idea is, what I like to call the deferred life plan. The deferred life plan. And what that is that a lot of people believe that you could defer living your life by, sacrificing just a lot of things that you want to do and keep waiting and waiting and waiting, and eventually people think that there's going to be a time eventually when you've made it in some way, right? You made all the money, you bought the cars, the house, and all that stuff. Eventually you could live your life. Well, I don't think it works that way, right? It's just the wrong plan. The whole deferred plan is, it just, you can't really defer anything. And the reason why I think it's wrong is because the way your brain, at least in my kind of opinion, the way your brain is designed is that once you get comfortable with something, it's just so hard to get out of that. Once you get into some kind of autopilot way of living, it becomes extremely hard to get out of that. So let me give you kind of like a backstory here. So personally for me, I even when I was growing up, I remember when I was in high school, I bought my first computer, a compact back in, I think it's either 98 or 99, bought my first computer. And, well, 99 it was, I remember, like ringing in the new century, I guess, or millennial in 2000, and, I had my first computer. But the point is, when I bought my first computer, I actually really got hooked on reading this travel blogs. Back then there were no vlogging, no videos, but people used to write blogs, and there were like I stumbled upon this, I forgot the name of the website, but everyone posted their travel blogs there, and I remember just really reading the travel blogs. Like I remember reading about people traveling the world and blogging, and I just was fascinated by that idea of traveling the world, exploring different cultures, meeting different people, learning different things, just fascinated by it. I was just hoping that at some point I could do that as well. And yeah, I was probably around, I want to say 15, 16 at the time. But then, school, graduated high school, kind of forgot most of it, forgot a lot about it. And then I just got busy with life, got in school, college, job, started working, and then I kind of bought into the idea of, traveling, later on I need to make some money, I need to like fix this situation, I need to get a car, I need to, get a nice apartment, or, buy a house at some point, all that stuff, and, we'll travel later on. But I had this realization, and there are a couple, things happened to me in between. By, I would say, around time I was like 22, 23, and I just took off one time and started traveling. And I remember it was just a decision I made, and it was kind of like a point of my life where I just took off and I went to Europe. I started traveling. I went to Hawaii, I went to different places, traveled to Vegas, tons of different places, and I was like, oh my God, I'm actually living this life now. I am the traveler. Like I remember reading all these travel blogs years ago, and then now I'm actually traveling around the world, meeting new people, exploring different things. I was learning so much stuff just traveling around, and honestly I could tell you that through my travels I probably learned way more things, practical things, than I ever learned, maybe 4 years of high school or whatever years I spent in school. Yeah, you learn certain things in schools, but a lot of the practical things that you would learn, a lot of the street smartness that you actually get from being out in the world, traveling around, navigating through very challenging situations sometimes, being in a country where you don't know anything about the country. Even like traveling alone a lot of times where you don't know anyone. And the biggest challenge of all is not knowing the language. You could be in a country where you don't speak the language. Like for example, right now I'm in Ukraine and barely anyone speaks English here, right? I don't speak Ukrainian, I don't speak Russian, but I figure it out. You know, I could figure things out. And just learning how to figure things out like that is something that really matures you in a way and makes you wiser and makes you very, very street smart. So a lot of things I was learning. So I remember around that time, again, you know, maybe I was 22, 23. I remember around that time, a lot of my friends or even some of my family members and stuff were like, how are you traveling so much? This is amazing. You know, I wish I could do it. And I'm like, let's do it. Like, I'm actually gonna be going to wherever I was going. You know, come with me, come travel with me. And then you could see like they just were like, I would love to, but I'm just not ready right now, man. You know, I need some time. You know, I have a job right now. I need to like do this and you know this and that. And again, these are in a way of looking at it, these are excuses. And of course it sounds real to you in that moment, of course, like having a job, being in a situation where you can take extended time off. I get it, but again, I mean, if you made the choice to travel, then you can, but you're deferring it because you think that you're gonna get to a certain point where you can start traveling. So then what happened is, now this is about 9-10 years ago, and a lot of these people, a lot of my friends that I knew from back in the days that said that, man, you know, a couple of years and I'm gonna travel too. I want to go to Europe, I want to go here, I want to do this, like I want to save up some money. In 3 years I'm gonna start traveling. Guess what, guys? None of them are really traveling. None of them are really doing it. You know, just not gonna happen, right? And it's kind of scary to think about, but when we're postponing certain things in life, when we're deferring, it's, you know, it's almost like procrastinating, that I will do it, not right now, I'm busy right now. It's almost like when you know, you get some people who you know, they know that they should go to the gym, they should work out, and you tell them that, listen man, you got to start working out, I'm going to the gym, come to the gym with me, join the gym with me, you know, come, there's whatever, right? You try to convince them, but there's like, man, you know, I'm actually really busy with my work, and you know, I have this going on right now, but like, you know, next month I'm gonna start working out, or next year I'm gonna start working out. And most of the time you see them, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 years later, and they never really started. Or even if they did, they probably worked out for a month or two and they stopped, right? They just can't stay consistent with it. It's the same thing with traveling and just doing the things you want to do, is the living the life you want to live, is because it's kind of like the law of inertia, man. You know, objects in motion tend to stay in motion. So if you're constantly pushing yourself into uncomfortable situations, pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, traveling, taking action, then you would tend to stay in motion most of the time, and you'll continue to push your boundaries. Whereas object at rest tend to stay, you know, at rest unless kind of pushed by an outside object. So let's say if you're someone who's comfortable in a life situation, right? Maybe you have a 9 to 5, decent job, you're making good money, paying your bills, just going out on the weekends, going to restaurants, just pretty much that kind of, you know, let's call it like a routine-based life. You're comfortable, then you're an object of rest, and it's going to be very, very hard for you to get out of that and to start doing the things you want to do, such as traveling the world, meeting new people, starting business if you want to do that, learning new skills, whatever it is. It's going to be very hard for you to do that, because that means getting out of your autopilot life and then getting into a situation which is going to be very uncomfortable in the beginning. So the deferred life plan doesn't work, just because, again, you're trying to postpone something thinking that someday you will do it, but that day never comes. Because if you want to do something, you have to do it now. I mean, it's just, yeah, you got to plan it systematically and stuff, but you got to have a time frame when you're going to start doing something, because now is really the only time. You know, it's I know it's a cliche, but it's the reality. Like, now is the only time. There's a famous Chinese proverb that says the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is now. Same thing, like the best time to start living your life, traveling the world, and doing the things that you want to do was maybe 10 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, but the second best time is now. So if you're someone who actually wants to do certain things in life, wants to travel, explore, wants to start a new skill, wants to start a business, don't wait for it. Because if you wait for it, most likely, okay, if you're an exception, then there are exceptions, but most likely you probably never do it. So the only way you can do it is you gotta just say, you know what, this is it. Set a date, set a time, and get moving. Do it. And that's the only thing I kind of just was thinking about today and want to share with you guys. So that's what it is. Deferred life plans don't typically work. In life, if you want to do something, you just got to go for it. You just got to do it, take the risk. And I could tell you from personal experience that it is worth it. Thanks for checking out this video. I will talk to you soon.